Hello all. In this particular tutorial, we will learn how to install SQL Server 2022 on Windows Server 2022. Now, the steps mentioned here will work with Windows Server 2022, 2019, 2016, as well as SQL Server 2022, 2019, 2017, 2016 with little or minimal variation. There might be some variation, but it will be little or minimal variation. So you can use this particular tutorial to install the SQL Server, and the same steps will also work on your personal laptop such as Windows 10 or Windows 11. The softwares used here are Windows Server 2022 Evaluation Edition, SQL Server 2022 Developer Edition, and SQL Server Management Studio, which is also called as SSMS 19.3. These are the high-level steps for setting up the SQL Server. First, you'll create a service account user. Then you'll create a directories for SQL Server data file, log file, tempdb, backups. Then you will download the SQL Server 2022. Then you will install the SQL Server. Then you will also download the SSMS and install. Then you will connect to SQL Server instance using SSMS and you will create a test database. So these are the high-level steps. So create service account, create the directories, download SQL Server, install SQL Server, download SSMS, install SSMS, connect to SQL Server, create test database. Now that we have seen all the steps, let's go ahead and see what we got here. So here is my Windows Server 2022, and first thing that I mentioned is we need to create a service account. So let's go ahead. To create a service account, you'll go to the start menu, go to the server manager, go to the tools, go to the computer management. Let me repeat all of this once again. Go to the start manager, go to the server manager, go to the tools, go to the computer management. Under computer management, you will find local users and groups. Under users, right click, say new user and give whatever user. So let's say service account as SQL, give a password, whatever password your organization standard requires, give that particular password and let's say create. Now once that account is created, let's go to the groups, go to the administrator and add that account into the administrators on that particular machine. So check name and click OK, click apply, click OK. So what we have done is we have created a new user called SVC SQL, and then we went to the groups, click on admin, click on add, and we added that group, added that new user as an admin. So right now the SVC SQL account is added as the admin account. Now that's the first part. The second part is we need to create directories for SQL Server data file, log file, tempdb backups. So to do that, you can choose any directory. You can choose any directory. However, it is recommended to choose a separate drive for this. So let's create a new directory called data. Now remember one thing, in your production, it is always recommended to set up this particular directories in a different drive. So data should be on a different drive, log should be on a different drive, tempdb should be on a different drive, and the backups should be on the shared location, never on the system. So we are creating these particular drives. Once the drives are created, we are going to now download SQL Server 2022. So to download the SQL Server, launch any browser of your choice and search for download SQL Server 2022. So what will happen is you will get a link, and here you can choose to download SQL Server 2022 Developer Edition. So this is what we are going to install. So click on download now, and then it actually downloaded a small package here. Now I'm going to show it to you, this particular package, but along with that, we also need to download the SSMS. So I'll do that together. So here you can say download SSMS, and then you get this particular link. Click on this particular link. Now if you want to download the latest one, you can click the latest one. which will immediately start downloading. I have already downloaded it, so I'm not going to download it again. But if you want to go back to the older version, you can always go for previous SMS releases and you can choose which version you want. So you can either install the latest version or you can install the previous version. Now that we have downloaded both of the packages, we can close the browser, and here you can see that we have got two packages. One is the SQL Server 2022 Developer Edition, and this is the SSMS. Now if you look at this particular package, it's pretty small in size. This is not a full installation. So what we need to do is we need to click on it and say run as administrator. Now we have multiple options. So what is going to happen, you can choose basic, custom or download media. I would say go with the download media. What it does is it saves an ISO image. So if you want to reinstall SQL Server or you want to install SQL Server on 100 machines, you don't have to go through this particular process because you will have the install label ISO image. I'm going to click on download. As you can see, the download is going to take some time based on how big the package is. So you can see the package is close to 1.1 GB. So around 1 GB. So based on how fast is your internet speed, it might take some time or it might take longer time. I'm going to pause the video here and I'll come back once the installation is downloaded. It's not at done, but we are almost there here, as you can see. And then it creates a download successful. It will give you this particular message. Open the folder. We can safely close this. Are you sure you want to exit? Say yes. And here you can see we have an ISO image. This is the ISO image that we will use to install the SQL Server. Now right click on this and click on the mount and click on the setup. So right click and run as administrator. So let's use that particular setup. Now it's going to extract this particular setup. So, and then once it extracts, it presents you with this particular screen. Click on the installation option, the second one here, planning installation, the second one here, and say new SQL Server standalone instance or add feature. So choose this particular option, and then you can choose what kind of addition, evaluation, developer or express you can choose. By default, it picks up the developer. Click on next, accept the license, click on next. It scans for any updates. Click on if you have Azure extension, you can add that. If you don't have it, you can uncheck this. Click on next. Here you can choose one or more features that you want to install. So let's go with the database engine. Let's go with the SQL Server. Here you can change the location where the SQL Server will be installed. So you can choose the location. Click on next. And you can go with the default instance or named instance. Default instance means the instance where you just have to specify the host name and you will be connected. The named instance, you can have multiple named instance. You can have only one default instance. You can have multiple named instance. I'm going with named instance, and let's choose a name SQL 22 because we are installing SQL Server 2022. So let's go with SQL 22 inst1. Click on next. Here you will choose the service account. This is the service account that we created. Remember, we created service account. So you can choose that particular service account. You can keep this as a local, but ideally you should choose the service account. So let's choose the svc_SQL, the account that we created. Let's choose that particular account. Say click OK, and let's wait for it to populate. That's done. Again, browse for the same account. If you want to use a different account for agent and different for the service, that is fine. The first one is agent, second one is database engine. If you want to use a different account, if you want to grant the volume, you can grant it. If you don't, you can ignore it. However, it is recommended to give this particular privilege. Now make sure to set all the services as automatic. Otherwise, you'll have to manually start the services. Give the password of the user that you created, SVC SQL. This is the password of this user SVC SQL. If you wanted to change the collision, you can change the collision. If everything looks good, click on the next. You have two options to choose from authentication mode. One is Windows authentication mode or mixed mode. You can choose any of these particular options. Windows authentication mode means you can only have Windows users. The user with a Windows user ID will be able to log in. Mixed mode means that can be a SQL users. So let's go with the mixed mode authentication. We can always change this at a later point in time. Here you need to give a complicated password. A simple password will not work. Make sure to give a complicated password. And since we have chosen the mixed mode, we need to also specify the Windows authenticated user. So this is the Windows authentication. I said add current user, or you can search for SVC SQL. You can do that as well. So I'm adding two accounts into the administrators. Now this will be the password of SA account. By default, this installation is going to create a login or a user called SA. This will be whatever password you mentioned here will be the password of your SA account. Click on data directories. Now remember, we also created the data directories. So here are those. So let's give the root directory, which is D, and then we will modify this as data. This is your logs. This is your backup and tempdb also. Now in the production, I mentioned that all of this data, log and temp should be on a different directory. However, since this is a home lab, we are fine. Desktop, memory, file stream. I'm going to leave as it is. I'm not going to change it. Now all of these settings can be changed at a later point in time. So now here, what you can do is you can start installation. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep this configuration file. So I'm going to keep this safe. So let me keep this particular configuration file safe. This configuration file can be used to install the SQL Server. So I'm going to keep it safe somewhere. So let's say I'm going to keep it here, and otherwise I'll keep it in E drive, not on the D drive. Let's keep it in E drive. So that's done. And now I'm going to say install. Now the installation will take some time. But before the installation completes, I want to show you two things. If you go to the data directory, the D drive where you created all of these directories, you can right now see on the screen that you got 5 directories, one for the backup, one for the data, one for the logs, one for the temp db. These are the directories that we got here. What will happen is like there will be a 5th directory that will get created, and that directory will store the internal system databases. So there will be a 5th directory. Remember that there will be a new directory that will get created here. Also, I want to show you one more thing. So if you go to the services, you should, before you install the SQL Server, there won't be any SQL Server services. And you can see right now there are only 2. If everything goes fine, these services were just created by the installation. If it is a fresh computer, you will not find any SQL Server services. Now, at the end of this installation, you should have close to 5 services. Now, it might change based on what options you chose. So if you chose not to install the agent or engine, you can have 1 or more services. So based on what options you chose while installing, you can see now we got the 3rd service. Like that, we will have 5 services. You can also verify this, and again, this is optional, not mandatory. You can launch a PowerShell command. And let me say cd clean this, and let me run a command get service SQL star, and this will give all the services which are related to SQL. So any service which starts with SQL, this will give you. So right now you can see we got an agent service, we got the browser service. We should also have a one engine service. Now let's take a look at the installation, and you can see everything is successful. So looks like everything is successful. So let's close this, and now the next part is installing the SSMS. So we have reached here. We have installed the SQL Server. Now we have to download SSMS and install. As you know that we have already downloaded SSMS. So let's go ahead and go to the download location, and let's install the SSMS. To install the SSMS, again, right click, run as administrator. Now one thing here is, along with the SSMS, along with the SSMS, click on the S along with the SSMS, the Azure Data Studio will also be installed. So by default, when you install SSMS along with SSMS, Azure Data Studio, you can see here, it will also install Azure Data Studio. Now you can accept this, you can click on install, and this one will install both of these packages. Or if you want to change this, you can give a short name. If you don't want this big name, you can give a small name, SSMS 19. Since I'm installing 19, let's give a name SSMS 19. Click on install. The installation will take some time because it will install the SSMS and Azure Data Studio. So let's pause the video and come back once the installation is about to be finished. So it's almost done. As you can see, it is doing the post install task. So almost all the installation is completed. Let's see. Once it finishes, it might ask you for a reboot. I do not want to waste your time rebooting, so probably I will do the reboot. You need to do the reboot or restart of your machine. However, let's see if this particular thing works. So I'm not going for a reboot. You need to reboot at certain point in time, so I'm not. So here you can see we got the SSMS. So let's launch the SSMS. And once we launch the SSMS, let's try to connect to the instance that we created, the SQL Server instance. So we have now install the SSMS. Let's connect to instance and let's create a test database. So to create, so let's, here you can see it pre-populated the server name because it identified that this instance is available. Click on connect and you can see here we have connected. If I look at the databases, you can see that we don't have any databases. Now I also told you that under the D drive, a fifth directory will get created, and you can see there were only 4 directories. Now there is a 5th directory. And if I click on this 5th directory, if I go inside this directory, you will be able to find that we got the data files related to master, model, MSDB, and then we also got the log files. So we got the log files and we got the data file and the log file. Now that we have seen, let's create a sample database. Let's say new database. Let's create a database called test. Before creating the database called test, let's do one more thing. Let's verify what kind of version is this, and you can use a query select at version. You can use select at version, which will show you the version that you have installed, and you can see on your screen the version is Microsoft SQL Server 2022. Now how did I get to this particular screen? I'll close this. How did I get to this particular close screen? I'll close this. What you have to do, you can either click on the instance, say new query, or you can right click on it and say new query. Both is same. So here, and I'm going to paste the query, and then when I run this particular query, execute, then I get this particular output, and this output shows that we have got SQL Server 2022 installed. Now that we have installed SQL Server 2022, let's create a database. Before creating a database, I would like to show you one more command, sp help db. This particular command shows you the current available databases on your system, and you can see we got 4 databases. One is master, model, MSDB, and tempdb. Let's go ahead and create a new database. So to create a new database, you'll say new database, and you'll give the name of the database called test. So click on that. And now if I run, here you can see there is a new database that got created, sp help db. You can see we got a new database called test. Now if you don't want it to do that, you can also write something like this, and this one will perfectly work. So create database SQL learning. So I'm going to create a database called SQL learning. Execute this. Command completed successfully. Let me refresh it. So right click on the databases, click on refresh. You can see we got the new database called SQL learning. And if I run the same command, sp help db, I should get now 6 databases: master, model, MSDB, tempdb, and SQL learning. Now where are these databases? What are these databases? These are called internal system databases. So if I go to the system databases, you can see that we got this internal databases. Now I would like to also show you one more command which actually tells the name of the instance, which is, and you can find it out from here. You can click on the properties and you can see the name of the instance is this. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it here. Or you can use another command, select at server name. You can use this particular command at server name, which will also give you the name of your instance, and it will match whatever we got above. It will match. So you can see the instance name is win22 SQL 22 inst1. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to minimize this and I'm going to try to connect to this instance from my local machine. So I'm going to try to connect to this instance from my local machine, and as you can see that I'm not able to connect. Let me try to see if I'm able to ping to that particular IP. So to get that particular IP, let's go ahead and see what is the IP. So using the IP config command, I'm going to try to get what is the IP, and the IP is 192.168.1.122. So let me go here and on the local machine, I'm going to say ping to that IP. I'm getting the response. So IP is this one. Let me cancel this and let me put the actual IP rather than the host name, and let's see if I'm able to connect. And as you can see right now on the screen, we are not able to connect to our instance. We are not able to. Let me change this let me change this to SQL and let me give the password. And this is the password of the SA account which we specified during the installation, and you can see we will not be able to connect. So what could be the reason that we are able to connect to our SSMS on the local machine? So on the local machine we are able to connect, but however from the remote we are unable to connect. What could be the reason? The reason is pretty simple. So what is this is like this particular instance is not enabled for the remote connection. To do that, let's go to the start menu, click on the SQL Server 2022, and here you will find SQL Server 2022 Configuration Manager. So here you can see we got an error. So basically it was not able to connect. So now let's go ahead. Let's keep on connect. And what we'll do is like we will say, we'll go to that SQL Server 2022 Configuration Manager. And if you go here, under the network configuration protocols, the TCP IP is disabled. That is the reason. So let's enable that. So how to enable? Right click and say enable. So that's done. Now, one thing is like once you change this particular setting, you need to restart your SQL services. So here you will go and you have multiple options. You can either go here and you can say restart. You can either go here and you can say restart, or you can directly restart from the configuration manager. So let's say restart. And what will happen? What will happen is like once this particular service is restarted, you should be able to connect. And if I say connect now, then I should be, if once the service is restarted. So let's see, the service is still starting, and now I should be able to connect to, and you can see I have connected. And if I wanted to show you that this is the same instance, you can see we got those two databases. And if I run the same query that I ran there, select at server name, then I should be able to get exactly same output. So select at server name, and I should be able to get win22 SQL 22 inst1. So with this, I would like to end this particular tutorial. We learned how to install SQL Server. We learned how to install SSMS. We learned how to connect locally. We learned how to connect remote, how to create a new database, etc., etc. Again, thank you for watching. In this particular tutorial, we learned how to install SQL Server 2022 on Windows Server 2022. If you do like the video, if you do like the content, do subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching and see you in next tutorial. Bye bye.